Awesome.
That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No, you're awesome.
You are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I'm your host, Kev, and this is the show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. This week we have one of those rare shows where we have two guests, and it's something that we'll be getting into more and more because we're starting to expand the type of podcast we talk to. And I don't say, I just want to talk to one person anymore. I just let them figure it out who's going to be on the show. And sometimes it's one, sometimes it's both, sometimes it's nobody. That's happened once or twice. And these guys, they do something great, not necessarily on their podcast.
What the fuck? Are you fucking kidding me?
but on their Twitter. On their Twitter.
The interview is over. We're done.
I'm not saying that your podcast isn't great. What I'm saying is you do something that's great that goes along with the podcast, I guess. But you do this thing called a beer run. These guys do a beer run on their Twitter feed, and they listen to podcasts, anywhere from 2 to, I think I've seen as many as 5 or more in a matter of a day, and they just kind of blow through it, and they live tweet it, which I love the idea of live tweeting a podcast. I just never follow through with it when I do it. That's how I got introduced to these guys, because they decided to, I don't know how they found me, but they started live tweeting Everything is Awesome. I was like, wow, I'm like legitimate now. And finally we talked for like probably almost a month and a half now. So finally, after a month and a half, we got the hosts from the After Six podcast, Adam and Travis. Welcome to the show, guys. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Nerdy Kev.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. So yeah, and I did not mean that comment as like your podcast is garbage at all. It's
cool. We've heard it before.
It's all right. We prefer the term train wreck is politically correct.
Oh, okay. So you guys are at that level where I was when I first started, because that was like in the title, not in the title, but in the intro song to my first podcast, Happy Hour with Steel Tip. I think it kicked off with, are you ready for this train? Oh, no, we said plane wreck because we made jokes about planes.
9/11?
9/11 jokes is real. Didn't go far.
9 years ago, we made 9/11 jokes, which I don't know. I mean, I guess like it's a bold move.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
Hit or miss, man. I mean, the people that like it, but
yikes.
Yeah,
alienate a large part of the population, man.
Well, I mean, there's a reason that that show's not around anymore. I mean, that show only lasted about 18 weeks, and I'm sure that may have had something to do with it. And also, that's like me in my early 20s doing a podcast.
What was the name of the show?
Happy Hour with Steel Tip. I do not think you'll find any. You might find a MySpace account. I don't think it exists on the internet anymore. I have to go to my old producer to because this was before I knew anything. Like all I knew how to do was sit in front of a mic, and so I had to ask him for all the audio files. And I think I have a portion of them that maybe I can cut up to do some special episodes.
Yeah, you could just cut it up and call it just the tip.
Just the tip. Yeah. Well, so. I like it. That was I used to be big into wrestling, and I used to wrestle. I mean, I know you guys have listened to some of the episodes.
Dude.
Oh, here we go. I'm gonna just go ahead. Yeah. I'll dismiss myself. I'll get back when you guys are done making out.
Yeah, dude. Let me say, Adam's typically the one that does the beer run segments and listens to the indie pods, and so Adam, let me know. Here's the podcast you need to listen to, and I checked out your show. And you have so many shout-outs to Kevin Smith
yep.
and Smodcast and those shows, and which is the reason that we do a podcast, in all honesty.
Nice.
Is that we used to work together, and we'd stand around, and we would talk about Smodcast, and eventually it was just like, dude, why don't we do that? Mm-hmm. Which is the story of a million podcasters.
Yes.
So I'm listening to a couple of your shows, and then all of a sudden you start talking about wrestling, and I'm like, this man is my soulmate. Because I've loved wrestling since I was a kid, and it comes up on our show all the time, and Adam has nothing to add to the conversation. But I also used to do like independent wrestling shows as a manager, not really as a wrestler.
Cool.
So, dude, I was sold on your show within the first 20 minutes of hearing you mention about those things.
Nice. Yeah, it was, God, such a fun time. I started off I guess I started wrestling at like 15 in the backyard. and then just got like legitimate with when we got shut down by our township, and we acquired a license through the state and got trained by like some legitimate dudes, and it was the best time that I had in my late teens, early 20s. Like, it was such a good time.
Yeah.
What was your wrestling name?
It was Steel Tip.
Awesome.
And that origin, and I'll keep it brief because I'm sure I've told it before, but I used to wrestle. My original gimmick was Heartbreak Kev because I was a big Shawn Michaels guy. But that lasted for about 4 weeks, and we said, we got to change your gimmick. And I decided to wear steel tip boots and said, my name's Steel Tip. And then after 2 weeks of wrestling and kicking people in the head with steel tip boots, we said, well, let's just stick with the name and put wrestling boots on.
Is it not against the rules to kick people in the face with steel-toed boots?
I mean, it's probably not against the rules, but it's definitely against like morale. There's low morale when you do that.
Fair enough.
You don't make friends, is what you're saying? That's not a good way to make friends?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and luckily that was probably when I was about 16 or 17 years old. So like we were all just a bunch of young, dumb kids. So we didn't really care.
All right, guys, here's the finish. You hit me with an elbow, and I kick you as hard as I can with a steel-toed boot. 1, 2, 3, we go to the back, all right?
It's funny. The first event we ever had in the backyard is there was this one guy who we were friends with, but like he had a big ego, and we said we got to put him in his place. And this is something that kids, if you're into wrestling and whatnot, you should never ever do, because you're supposed to trust people with your life in the ring or on the ground in our case. And but we decided to put him through the ringer, and so we did a gauntlet match, and every single person he was against, we all were okay with losing. We all said we'll take the pin from him, but we're going to hit him for real. And like people brought like wooden mallets out and hit him for real. They brought chairs out, hit him for real. Like, I can't believe he didn't get a concussion while we did this to him.
What do you mean for real? I mean, I thought it's not all real.
It's
Are you going to tell me there's also not a Santa Claus? This is a fucking bullshit.
there is. I mean,
we can curse. Oh.
I don't know if we can, but we are. I'm just making.
Okay.
I'm just making his job harder because now he's got to go in and put all like the bleeps and like.
No, we don't bleep here.
Okay.
This is an explicit podcast.
Which I actually know that, but I'm more just giving Travis shit. But.
I knew that too. It's for the purpose of a joke.
Oh, good joke, Travis.
But whatever.
Good joke.
Thanks, guys.
I stomp over jokes, guys.
With a steel toe.
So I
100% of the time.
So I do have. And before we started, I was talking to Adam, and I listened to your guys' show for a bit today. I'm starting to binge it. It's now on my binge list.
Sorry about that.
And so first of all, I do want to say that I started from the beginning because I'm that guy. I have to start from the beginning.
Ooh.
And
yeah.
I will say and you can clarify this now. I was surprised that it dated back to 2014. So you guys haven't been doing this despite your episode count. You know, you've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, we only have 37, or no, that's you. You have 37. We have 27. We have 28 episodes out right now because we started in 2014. We did 15 episodes, and we ended with the Tracy Smothers episode. It was a wrestler. It was one of my favorite episodes, actually. And then we took a hiatus for almost a year. Year and a couple of months, and then we reconvened and then kicked it into high gear and have been putting out episodes pretty much every week since then.
Oh, nice. That was just, it was, I don't know, I guess because I've been doing it for so long, like I don't know, it just clicked with me. I was like, oh, that's nice. Like, it's nice that I'm not the only one that goes through like, oh, I got to take a year or two off from this. But you guys do a show, and I mean, I think I've listened to 2 or 3 of them. The first, you know what? You guys didn't have episode 1 up on your feed, so I listened to episode 2 and episode 3, part 1. And you guys do a show that's my favorite show. Is 2 buddies sitting around talking.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
dude, by far, mine too. Like I love the
yeah.
conversational shows, and I think that Travis like talked about this a little bit earlier, where honestly, like we were deeply inspired by Smodcast and Hollywood Babylon and Tell 'em Steve Dave and the Kevin Smith lexicon of offerings that he has, and just like you said, like a million podcasts have that story, but because Smodcast was a big influence, we wanted to at least begin that way. We wanted to begin with, let's just get together, let's just talk and see what happens. And then if you listen from, the episodes, I think like if you go to aftersixpodcast.com, we have a deeper archive there. But if you listen from like the binge listen from the beginning till now, you can literally hear the show taking a form and getting its own shape. And we still get on and we still BS and it's still two guys talking to each other. But there's a lot more that has come to be like recurring segments, like Beer Run, for instance. You know what I mean? Like that's something that we started doing about like a month and a half or 2 months ago, and it's become part of the show now where we talk about other podcasts and we kind of we talk about the beer run shows. And we just got back from Horror Hound in Indianapolis where we did interviews with the vendors and stuff there, and so now we're talking about like that's probably going to be a recurring thing where Travis and I go someplace and record either a live show at a bar or a con or something like that. And then so it's actually you can organically listen to the show taking its shape, growing up, coming from its infancy to becoming something a little bit more than that. But at its core, it's two guys talking to each other. And I think that we've always really liked the conversational type shows.
Yeah, and I mean, each episode that may be 30, 45 minutes long is coming from 2 hours of us talking.
Oh, wow.
And recording. I mean, honestly, and it's we just get going, and then a lot of our deepest conversations come from after the show, where I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to tell you about this, or and stuff like that. So that really is the core of our show, and we try to round it out with a few different segments and different things. But ultimately, like you said, it's two guys just talking.
I find it interesting. So it's 2 hours, and then you edit it down to the half hour. See, I come from a world where I used to do that, and then we started doing live streaming on Stickcam back in the day when it was like the biggest competitor to like Ustream. It was like the YouTube of live streaming at the time.
Dude, I saw that on Howard Stern. That's the only time I ever saw Stickcam.
Oh,
was with Eric the Midget.
Okay, yeah.
And that's the only time I've ever heard of that, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it was actually a wildly popular service. Like to the point where the show that someone contracted me to be a co-host on, I mean, we got probably about 100,000 views every week that we did the show. I started doing a show for the Walking Dead television show, and they asked me if I wanted to be featured, and we did 10,000 views an hour. I mean, that was a service that like helped me have a big following for the longest time until I kind of took a couple years off from podcasting. But going to live stream, like at that point when I'm getting ready to post the show as a podcast, it's like, well, am I going to edit all this down to something that's nice when I've already let thousands of people listen to me say, and, have a joke fail or whatever? Like, I'm just going to throw it out there. And this is why I think I am so successful, or at least have the most fun with this show, is that I do no prep because I believe in like the conversations I have with you guys. This is something that we would be talking about in a bar if we just met up for a drink.
Yeah.
And so there's zero prep, and there's very little editing. I'll listen to the whole show typically before I post it, but it's really just to kind of cut it into two parts if it needs to be, cut commercials in. Other than that, unless you guys say, yo, get rid of the Nazi stuff, like I won't cut it. I won't cut anything out.
And that's kind of how ours is. I mean, that's how ours has been too, because we would do 2 hours, and that's kind of why we took a hiatus, is because if I didn't feel like doing the show that night, or he didn't feel like doing the show that night, it was like, well, we have this much back catalog that we'll just cut together. And it didn't become a priority. And now I will say that we've been live streaming on Twitch for the past 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's been much more relaxed because you know that it's all going to go out there anyway. And our show is typically just like the cuts or burps and coughs and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's just like just leave it in because that's organic and that's what the show is. So, I agree. I mean, I agree with you. It's gonna be a lot of agreeing on this show. It seems.
We're just all gonna sit around and agree with each other over and over again.
We all love each other. Your show's great. Our show's great. You're awesome. We're awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Exactly. I will tell you that my kid, man, loves the Lego movies, and they're going to be so stoked when I tell them that
nice.
I was on this show.
Don't
so.
let them listen to the show, though. It's
No, I won't. I'm just going to tell them the name.
Yeah.
But
how old are your kids?
you don't need. I got a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
Oh,
Which also contributed to the problems trying to coordinate a recording time.
well, and if I remember correctly, listening to the early episodes, Adam, you have a couple kids as well.
Yeah, I got 3 kids. So I have 3.5 kids. So
Oh, well, congrats.
Yeah, that was discovered on our show tonight. We discussed this actually.
Nice.
Adam
Yeah.
keeps secret.
I have 2 kids myself, but they're youngins. I have a 4.5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. But I mean, I'd say I probably took I've been podcasting for 9-10 years. Before I started this show up, I think the last time I did like a good run on a podcast was probably about 3-4 years ago. I had no time to do it with the kids, especially coordinating with like a co-host week in and week out. It was just impossible. This show, I get a new co-host every week.
which is awesome. You know what? Let me just fanboy a little bit. I super enjoy the opening to your show. Like the segment that you cut together where it's like, did you sit around and tell you to drink awesome cheaters and tell each other awesome and then typically you come in and you do your drop and you're like, all right, everything is awesome. Like it's a day brightener. You know what I'm saying? Like it's one of those things where like, you start listening to it and you immediately like your mood lifts. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
So I just super enjoy it. And I've been guilty of rewinding and listening to just the opening like 2 minutes of your show more than once.
And it's I do love the intro that I cut together. Oh God, probably back. I think I cut it together almost a year ago because I started recording well before we started releasing episodes. And so I probably cut it together almost a year ago, and I that is one of the best intros I've ever put together. The only intro that we have currently, because I do a podcast about Game of Thrones, because I just started watching that show recently. We hired someone to write a theme song, and it's a 90s sitcom theme song about Game of Thrones, basically.
Speaking of I don't know why we're going to rabbit hole here, but have you seen Too Many Cooks?
No.
Okay, then we're not going to talk about it. Moving right the fuck on.
Is it a web series? Is it an actual television show? Should I be watching this?
It was a I want to say it's a one shot that they did on Adult Swim, and it's the opening of the show is done in the style of like a TGIF sitcom.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's like Game of Thrones as like Family Matters, right? Or Step by Step.
It's kind of
something like that.
You really just have to watch it to understand it. It's one of those things where it's kind of like super pee time. Like you can't really talk about it. You just have to listen to it. You know what I mean? Like you won't understand it unless you listen to it. Or see it. So you can YouTube it at some point. But Too Many Cooks. I think it's a 12-minute episode, and it was a one shot on Adult Swim. But anyway, you said sitcom theme song and reminded me of it, so I thought perhaps you might have seen it, but then you haven't. And so now we're just out. Now it's awkward. Now it's weird.
Yeah, now it is weird, but it's all right because
you tried to call him out for stealing it, right? That's what it was. But it turned out he never saw it. So either you're a dick or he's lying, one or the other.
Well, I mean, I wrote it down in my notes app so that I can watch it later and then maybe steal some more things from it.
I think you're gonna dig it, man.
Yeah, well, the reason we started a podcast about Game of Thrones was my good buddy, who's the co-host of that show. He said for years he's been saying you need to watch Game of Thrones. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I watched Lord of the Rings once and I liked it in the moment, but like I don't.
Dude, Lord of the Rings is bullshit.
I'm not a fan. Like.
Dude.
I'm looking at the movies. I'm in my Shedio right now, so like in a place where movies shouldn't be. I have the only movies in here are the Lord of the Rings trilogy because I've watched them twice. Once in theater, once on DVD. I'll never watch them again. They're too damn long.
Dude, I watched every one of those in the theaters. I was dating a girl at the time that made me go to the movies every single weekend, and I fell asleep during every single one of those. And I know that we always bring it back to Kevin Smith, but the line in Clerks 2 about, dude, this is fucking 9 hours of people fucking walking. Yeah. Like, those are those movies. Yeah, I can't bring myself to do it.
No, I mean, I enjoyed them for the moment of time where I was at. I watched them, I enjoyed them, but I will never watch them again. And like compared to any other trilogy out there, and maybe there's a few caveats that are worse, but I'd rather watch any other trilogy over and over again than that one. And yeah, I mean, it does go back to Clerks 2, where it is just a bunch of people walking, like, and the trees are walking, like everyone's fucking walking in that movie. So that's why I never really watched Game of Thrones, and so I finally gave it a shot. About 2 months ago, after falling asleep during the pilot episode 4 times, and that 4th time I just kind of woke up again and powered through it. I finally kind of got hooked on the show. Like by episode 3, I was hooked, and he said we'll do a podcast, and that's how I got into it. I was like, all right, if we're gonna do a podcast about it, I'll watch it, even if I hate it, I'll watch it. But I said, but we have to have a theme song that sounds like it's from a 90s sitcom, because that just is the complete opposite of Game of Thrones.
Is that show in production still, pre-production, or is it out?
The podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's out. It's called Late to the Game ... of Thrones. And it's out, but I don't promote it real well. I kind of the newest episode should have been out on Monday, and I didn't throw it out yet. Like I don't treat my other like we also started a D&D podcast that we released 1 episode of.
Who's that? Who are you doing that with?
We're doing that with same guy that I co-host the Game of Thrones podcast with, Mike D'Angelo. He's my co-host for the live shows that we do, and he's a writer for the Tellist series that he created. So he runs a D&D campaign, and one of the reasons I stopped kind of editing it together is that, whereas it's really funny, I think we do funny things. No one but me and Mike are into the idea of podcasting it. So like we just have one microphone kind of set up in the middle of the table, and the quality isn't as nice as like a Quest for Magic and Steel.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, that's the one I know you guys know. But like for a Party of One podcast, Too Cool for Tabletop, and Campaign Pod, they're the 4 tabletop podcasts I listen to.
We're Not Wizards?
No, but I believe it was probably Dave Steele that told me about that one. Yeah. Someone told me about that one.
Dope too.
I'm afraid to add any more on, because I'm still like Campaign Pod is like they started years ago, so like they're in episode 70, and I'm finally like in the mid 50s, and like I've been binging on that while keeping up with week to week with a Quest for a Party of One and Too Cool for Tabletop.
We need to get an acronym. We need to get a hold of David and have him get an acronym for his show, because A Quest for Magic and Steel is like an awesome name, but it's one of those things where you like, you guys watch QPod? You know what I mean, or whatever, like, you know, like.
Oh well, that's what we're gonna call it. It's QPod from now on.
Yeah, like. Did you guys listen to QPod last week?
and I know we've been talking about this one a little bit, because you mentioned about being psyched that I got him on my show.
Definitely.
What I love about particularly the episode with Dave on the podcast is that the conversation, like you hear as soon as I find out that it's a family playing a game together, like my voice, you just hear like things are clicking in my head. I'm like, oh my God, I love your show better. Like it's better now. Yeah. Like the fact that I know that.
Absolutely. That was the same thing. Like I'm listening to you hit that point in your interview, and like that switch goes off, and you're like, whoa, back the fuck up. It's a whole fam. Like it's I was saying, I'm there with you. Like I'm there. Yeah,
like it's a really cool twist, and I'll be honest, like at first, like as I was listening to the episodes, I'm like, you know what, this isn't it's not the same thing that I'm listening to when I listen to Too Cool for Tabletop or when I listen to Campaign Pod, which isn't fair, because like the people that do Campaign, they're a bunch of Chicago improvers, so like they're like they have an unfair advantage, and Too Cool for Tabletop, like they're just seasoned nerds at tabletop, so like again another unfair advantage. But as soon as I found that out, like the show, I looked at the show so differently, and now it ranks up there with Party of One, Too Cool, and Campaign. Like it's and I mean it's one of the 4 that I listen to, and it's Those I would say more so that and Too Cool for Tabletop are every week when they're released. I try to listen to them within a day or two of them dropping because I enjoy them that much. I've let this show go till noon pretty much since I started listening to A Quest for Magic or Cupid rather.
Cupid.
And
He's gonna
Too
hate
Cool.
that, by the way. You know he's gonna hate that, right? Like
I'm
he's
pretty
not
sure he
endorsed us calling that show Cupid.
I know, but I don't think he will at all.
No.
But I will. I may even make a Twitter called @Cupid. But I don't. Yeah. So we got way off tangent as usual. So cheers to that. You know what? I've been toying with Twitch. You guys mentioned you stream on Twitch, and I think it was, I don't know who it was. I saw one of you playing Hearthstone.
Hearthstone.
Is that what it's called?
That would be it. That would be
Yeah.
Adam.
Okay. Yeah, I saw you play last night, maybe, or it was last night because that's when we did our test.
Yep.
So I watched that for a little bit before I had to just pass out because
nice.
I was extremely tired. So I know like the concept of Twitch is game based. So, but you guys host your non-game podcast on there as well, right?
Yeah, totally. So Twitch is primarily for game casting, for people live casting their games, live streaming their games. But at the same time, they do have channels dedicated to creative modes. So they have gaming talk shows, they have just regular talk shows. So you can kind of stream whatever content you really want on Twitch for the most part. They have Twitch channels dedicated to social eating. They have Twitch channels dedicated to cooking. A lot of the creative casts are people doing work, like they're drawing anime in Photoshop, or they're coloring comic book pages, or they're doing artwork like real time. They've got a show, a couple shows on there where basically it's like a Piano Man. So it's, you open the stream and there's like a guy on a, sitting on a piano, right, with you casting to the internet, just playing songs and taking requests and interacting with the audience. So yes, it's primarily for games, but they've really expanded their offerings a little bit and allowed people to be a little bit more creative. So that's where our show fits in. On Wednesdays, around 9:30 p.m., we stream live of us recording the show, basically of us making a podcast, which fits into the realm of creative cast. And then Tuesdays and Thursday nights, I do a show that's at some point going to be cut together and edited into a podcast called Fizzle Bang, where we basically build decks, experiment. It's kind of a chill stream, but we play a lot of Hearthstone. We talk about cards, talk about strategy, interact with the audience, and we build ridiculous decks and take them onto the competitive ladder. So yeah, it's super fun.
So and in Hearthstone, I don't play many video games at all anymore, just because of my the kids, B, like I kind of dedicate a lot of time to the podcast now, and some writing, but so watching it play, like that last night was the first time I've ever seen Hearthstone in any kind of, besides the logo.
Right on.
So it reminded me of Magic the Gathering.
It's certainly definitely the same style of game.
Okay.
It's absolutely the same style of game. I mean, they would call that a strategy card game, and Hearthstone's a strategy card game for sure.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, just watching, I mean, it makes me want to try it. I don't know if I will ever do it, but is it so now we can go into some tabletop. Did you I don't know what my question is here. Have you been playing like those type of games forever?
I got into Magic the Gathering for about a year and a half to 2 years, back in the day, as the kids say. So I was frequenting a comic book shop that had a really killer back room. And in the back room, they had tabletop gaming set up, and they also had a lot of people. They had a Magic tournament going, and so it was about the same time I got into painting figures for tabletops. And so
Okay.
I was, buying paints and like learning how to paint and all that kind of stuff. And then I was watching people play Magic, and I was like, what's this thing going on? And instantly hooked, right? I mean, there's a reason they call it cardboard crack. So instantly got hooked, played it quite a bit. Pretty heavily. I mean, I ended up with like 3 or 4 different cardboard boxes full of just Magic cards or whatever. And
Yep.
the thing that turned me off of Magic was the same thing that got me completely into Hearthstone, which was I didn't like the analog nature of Magic. I didn't like having tokens to track a bunch of like because Magic can be extremely complicated once you get into playing competitively in terms of putting cards down and then burn this card and you took this much damage and there's this many tokens and then this thing does this and you have to track it all and do all the math and keep your opponent if your opponent maybe might miscalculate or misplay or whatever and so you have to watch what they're doing, you have to watch what you're doing, and then you have to track it all. And so I hated that part of it, and it made it kind of not fun for me. But Hearthstone, because it's digital, it does it all for you. You just build the deck, you play the deck, you do the strategy, and then Hearthstone tracks all the damage and tokens and who does what and when it happens and all that kind of stuff. So that's where I really was like, yes, this is what I was waiting for.
I've gotten into briefly because I played Magic in back in the day, as the kids say. I mean, I probably played not when it first came out in '93, I believe it was, but in like the late '90s, I probably started playing it, and then stopped playing for years after I had probably 3 or 4 cardboard boxes full of cards. Yeah. Sold all those cards.
I gave mine away.
Oh wow, that was. I mean, at least I earned some money off of it. Like I don't feel as bad. But like probably less than a year ago, my brother-in-law, or soon-to-be brother-in-law rather, he's like, I think I want to play Magic again. I'm like, man, I haven't played Magic in like probably 10 years, easily 10 years, if not longer. I mean, yeah, I guess we can get a couple starter decks. And there was a 6-month period where I probably spent about $1,000 on Magic cards in my adult life again, and so I have a little small collection in my bedroom that now just sit there because neither of us have time to play again. So
it's a great Magic's a great game, and I have a lot of respect for the people that are good at it and can play it competitively at a high level. But it's just not fun for me to play that game in tabletop form. You know what I mean? To have to do all that stuff myself. It's just not fun for me. Where I know that and I think that Hearthstone, what they did really well was they kept the game simple. I mean, like not simple enough for Travis, but still simple enough for most people to where it doesn't get super complex. And it's just all about the straightforward playing the cards, building the deck. Because there's digital versions of Magic now, especially since Hearthstone's been so successful. Yeah. But they're just not as fun for me. I think I like the pick up and put down nature of Hearthstone too. Like I can jump in, I can play an hour of matches, or I can play 12 hours of matches, and I'm still having just as much fun either way.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Travis, are you not a big gamer, or you're just not a big gamer into like the card games?
Dude,
he's got a game.
He talked about Hearthstone. Like, I never heard about Hearthstone until he brought it up. Like, I never got into Magic, and I never got into WoW or anything like that. Yeah. So I tried playing Hearthstone, and I got through like the 3rd level of the tutorial, and I just keep getting beat. So, dude, like forever. I even brought my kids in, like, hey, watch this game because I thought they might be interested in it, and I get beat. Like, as far as gaming, man, like, I play Age of Empires 2. And they re-released that, and I love that game. And it's so fucked up because I don't even play like the online mode. I play like the same mode every time, so I win every time. And then Adam makes fun of me because I have a like we talked about earlier, dude. I'm really big into wrestling, and there's a wrestling booking simulator that I play a lot.
What?
Yeah, are you not aware of this?
No.
Dude, it's been a series for like 10 years. It's called Total Extreme Wrestling. And they have like their own universe or whatever, and people put out modifications for it. And you book your titles, you book your venues, you book your angles, you book everything. Your tag teams, you try to sign people. They have like historical mods, like the one that's hot right now is they have a mod out that is right before McMahon screwed Bret Hart at Survivor Series '97. So you take over one of the companies around that time, and you sign wrestlers, you release wrestlers, the whole deal. And it's all numerical because each wrestler in each company has a numerical attribute across different, categories or whatever. So I play that, and I play Age of Empires. Every now and then I'll throw in like The Sims, and I play Risk 2. My son likes playing Risk 2, so we'll play him. But yeah, dude, I don't get into the Hearthstone. Like the Hearthstone is kind of Adam's deal, kind of expanding out our our brand, if you will,
Yeah.
which we've kind of talked about a little bit. So Adam does that, and we talk about it a little bit on our show. But no, as far as like real gaming, I wouldn't say I do it. Like, dude, I sit back, drink a couple beers, and I'm like, ah, shit. What if Brett would have beat Sean at WrestleMania 12? That'd be dope. And then I book that out. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like the extent of my gaming.
I'm probably somewhere in between, though. I must say I did write down the Total Extreme Wrestling in my notepad so that I can check that, because that sounds absolutely fascinating to me.
Oh God, I'm gonna get a room.
But I'm somewhere in between. Go ahead, Travis.
No, I was gonna say the funny part is Adam is in the middle of that because Adam has no interest in wrestling whatsoever, but is completely a numerical and statistical person, and that's all this game is based on.
Yeah,
Other than that, it's all just I don't know. Fuck, I can't think of the word I'm trying to say, but like say one wrestler has these attributes and another wrestler has another. So when I play, I'm stoked because I have Bret Hart versus Hulk Hogan at the peak of their careers.
Yeah.
Adam's stoked because he has a guy with 92% charisma versus a guy with 92% charisma, and they also have a 98% work rate, so we're going to see who wins out of that battle. So it's all numbers for Adam, and he'd be really fucking... Like, it's funny because I love wrestling, and I know the history of wrestling, and I could book wrestling, but Adam would beat my ass in that game because it's all about numbers, and that would just piss me off.
That's funny.
Sorry.
I'm I'm somewhere in between. Like, I used to be a hardcore gamer. Now, like, after having the kids, I've found like Telltale has been my saving grace. I love their games because it's very story driven, and I'm a story first kind of guy. And like the Back to the Future series, I thought was fantastic.
Oh, here we go. Going back.
My kids.
Time.
Dude, I want to point out that we've been invited on this show to be guests, and so far we've talked about wrestling, Back to the Future, and Kevin Smith,
And Hearthstone,
which is essentially like Hearthstone, which is essentially our entire show.
We've infected.
It's funny,
dude. Hey, Kev, let me ask you this: so Back to the Future, incestual storyline or no?
Oh,
I was gonna say no, 'cause it's intelligent.
This is an ongoing argument on our show for every episode.
I want to say that there's no way I heard that in your first two episodes. I heard it. Maybe you guys tweeted about it, but I would say no. I don't see that as the main storyline. In part one, maybe that's a heavy. Is it part one? Yeah, part one. It's heavy in there, but other than that, like once you get to part two, part three, it's out.
But part one, the story, there is a partially incestual storyline. Yes or no?
Yes, partially.
Oh, man, see,
thank you, Adam. You're done, dude. Adam's argument that it's not incestual is that she doesn't realize it's her son.
Right. Which is why.
To which my argument is whether or not she realizes it is her son. Therefore, by definition, is incestual.
Yeah, I mean, in all the technical ways, it is. It's incestual.
You guys can't see me, but I just threw my hands up in success. By the way, just letting you know.
The mic.
Yes.
Mike, now you guys can stop bickering on your show.
That's not going to happen.
No, I'm sure we will.
But yes, I mean, I loved that game. Like that was my first Telltale game. And it was practically Back to the Future Part 4. Like it was just so well done, and not as like I think season 1 of The Walking Dead is just nothing touches that. Like that was just fantastic. But those games that tell stories and are very cinematic, and don't make you have to play a lot. That's what I'm into now, because I can hop in. An episode of the Telltale game is 2 hours, and hop in, hop out, and then wait for the next one.
Yeah, my kids love those games. I got really excited because my kids got into Back to the Future.
Nice.
And then, we're perusing through the PlayStation Store and we see the first episode for free. So we get that. My kids knocked that out in about 25 minutes. So we paid the $15 or whatever. Yeah, my kids love Telltale games. We haven't gotten to... I don't watch The Walking Dead. Mm-hmm. It's on my list. Like, it's number 1 on my list. I just can't get my girlfriend to watch it because of the zombies.
Oh my God!
Based on, so dude, everybody I know loves The Walking. Exactly, it's so good. That's what everybody says. So I've been trying to sell her on it. We watched Bates Motel recently, which is a little bit creepy. So I'm trying to and now we've moved in. We're on like season 4 of Stranger Things. So I'm hoping once
Wait.
we wrap that up, I can move her into The Walking Dead.
Wait, season 1 of Stranger Things?
No, like episode 4 of Stranger Things.
Episode 4. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I was Stranger
We're like
Things.
halfway through.
Stranger Things it might be my new favorite television show. It was so good.
Yeah, and it's great because it started out just like kind of like a weird missing person story.
Yeah.
And then each episode gets gradually more like sci-fi.
Yeah.
So for somebody like my girlfriend that doesn't like scary movies and doesn't like psychological thrillers and things like that, I'm tricking her into liking them because once we get to the end, then I can, maybe I can get her to start watching The Walking Dead with me.
And the sell on The Walking Dead is that it's not about the zombies, really. I mean, they're there, and season 1 maybe is more about the zombies, but once you get past season 1, it becomes about characters and living in that world and how you deal with it. And here's where I envy you, because season 2, and I've had this discussion with I used to do a podcast called Academic Nerds, and me and my co-host there, he liked season 2. I hated it because there was this drawn out storyline that takes place on a farm. And when you binge watch it, evidently, it's not that bad. But watching it week to week for 8 to 16 weeks or however long it was, like, it was just awful. So I envy you that you get to binge watch it and probably like it.
That's the plan. Yeah, we typically we don't watch any current like TV whatsoever. Like we've rewatched My Name Is Earl like 3 times.
That was such a good show.
I know, I love that show, and I feel like it's the most underrated show of the past 10 years. And we watched Sopranos, so it's hard to get her into a new show. So I'm thinking that The Walking Dead's going to be our next venture. Yeah,
you guys need to watch it. It is, like I said, I think the only bad season is season 2, and maybe it was season 2A.
I don't know what that is, but like at the same time, that's kind of how we roll too. Like we rarely watch new productions of shows. We tend to go back and just rewatch the same seasons of stuff. Like we're rewatching The Office right now. We've rewatched Bob's Burgers like a million times, like all the episodes.
Dude, we're halfway through.
Yeah, we've done Aqua Teen Hunger Force a bunch of different times through. There's just like, and we do it with movies too. Like we've seen Guardians of the Galaxy like 20 million times. I mean, I've seen Back to the Future, all 3 of them, more times than I could possibly count. Yep. But we'll still throw them in and watch them. Like it's just, I don't know what that is, but it's almost like comfort watching, comfort viewing.
It goes back to like on one of our earlier episodes. And this comes up
Here's
a lot.
The train. Yes.
You hear the train?
The train has.
Yeah. Dude, I tried to mute it. Like I heard it coming and I tried to mute it. Well, you want to take back the podcasting for a minute so we can talk about what we do? So like on our early episodes, I recorded outside of our house to keep the kids away and all of that. And apparently there's a train that goes by my house like every 35 minutes that I never realized. So it'll pop up in every podcast, and I've been trying to keep it out since then. But it goes back to like something that Adam and I have talked about on our show several times, is like growing up, my dad always listened to classic rock. Mm-hmm. Like he always listened to Aerosmith. He always listened to like Skinner and shit like that. And I was like, this shit is so old. Why do you like that? And now that I'm like 33, all that I listen to is there's like an old school hip hop station out of Indianapolis that I can get. So all I listen to is 90s rap on the radio. Or if I go into like Pandora or something like that, all I listen to is 90s or 80s music. I think it's a comfort level. Like, I think it's once you get to like you're 30, 35, you realize you have no idea what the fuck is going on in the world, and you don't know what to do, so you need your blankie. And my blankie is Montel Jordan, This Is How You Do It, and Shoop by Salt and Pepper.
Nice. No, I agree with that. I mean, I go on so I'm 32, so it sounds like I'll assume Adam's about the same age, 33.
No, Adam's old as fuck.
Oh,
Adam's like 45.
Right.
what?
Not even close.
He's older than I am. We'll call it 45.
I'm 39, Dick.
Okay. Well,
Which is pretty much 40, which is pretty much dead. So
45,
whatever.
Which is pretty much 50, which is kind of like 75. I'm retired and half dead.
well,
But you got a baby on the way. You better get that shit together.
That's like when that's the same dropping fact that Dave Steele gave me when I found out he had like grown ass kids. I was like, what?
Kids or something. Like he's like a factory. He's like a kid factory.
He's got like 5 or 6 kids, and like I think 2 of them are in their 20s.
Right, like he's so committed to making podcasts. He was like, listen, here's the first thing we got to do is make about 12 people. Then we raise them on tabletop gaming. Then we record them we play in this game. That's how committed he is.
Dude, in my real world, like my actual life, I have a job where I hire people, I manage people, and I hire and fire people. Dude, I hire people that were born in 1998.
That's insane.
Isn't that fucking nuts?
That's
like
insane.
Dude, Ice Baby is older than the people that I work with.
Yeah, I am. So I'm 32, and I'm at that crossroads of am I a Gen Xer or am I a millennial? Because like there's no set year range. Like I've seen one way, I've seen another. So like I feel like I ride that
dude,
line.
like I love memes, but I don't wear skinny jeans. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And
I know exactly what you're saying.
And like and I'm now like going back to like when you're in your 30s, you start getting afraid of things. That's kind of like social media for me now. Like Snapchat is all the rage, but like it confuses me, and I'm like, I'm never going to use it. It's stupid. It's scary. I'm not going to touch Snapchat. I'll stick with my Twitter. I'll that's all I'm going to use. Because
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I worked with briefly before I'm at the job I am at now. I worked for like a consulting firm, and I was an IT consultant, but I worked with marketing consultants as well. And one of them was a social media, and she was how old? She had the same birth date as me, but she was like 9 years younger, 7 years younger. So she was in her early 20s. I was in I guess at the time, I think I was 30. So there was like almost a generational gap, or it felt like it, because she's like, you got to use the Snapchat, the Indiegogo, like all these different things. And that Indiegogo is a bad example because I know what that is and I've used it, or I haven't used it, but I've toyed with it. But like all these different social medias, and I'm like, can I just stick with Twitter? Like I'm comfortable with 140 characters. Like, and I mean, I just eased my way into Instagram, and even that is very sparse. So I'm like, I'm on that cusp of what am I? And I always lean more towards Gen Xer because new things scare me now.
What? Like new packaging? Like if something's like, no, open it first and make it used, then I can't, because I can't be around it if it's new.
No, okay, not like new things.
Like no, somebody chew that first, spit it back out, then I can. But it's new, I can't touch it.
No, not that, not that definition of new. New technology is starting to scare me, which is weird because I'm an IT guy. Like I should be embracing it, but it's like virtual. Like so, we had this discussion, me and my fiance, about like, am I ever going to stop playing video games? Like I feel like I don't picture myself like not like when I'm 70 years old. Like I feel like I'll still want to play The Walking Dead season 75. And she said, well, yeah, you're still going to do that, but there's going to be virtual reality, and then you're going to run away scared of that because it's new and unfamiliar. And I agree with that. Like, I feel like, have you guys heard of I think it's called the Vortex?
The Vortex, the roller coaster at Kings Island? Vortex, the BMX bike that came out in like 86?
No.
Or Vortex?
No.
Okay, no then.
It's, I think, and maybe I got it named wrong, but we'll call it the Vortex for the purpose of this conversation. Yeah. It's out in Utah, I believe. It's basically one big warehouse, and it's a huge virtual reality game / course. It's kind of like laser tag, but virtual reality. So they've tested it with police officers to do like trainings for police officers, training for military, but they've also, you can like set it up so that it's like you're in a first person shooter, and you're actually walking around this like obstacle course, and where in real life you're seeing just a giant metal ball that might be the sun when you have your visor on, and you wear this equipment, and like you have like a stick that's your gun, and it's just virtual reality, but you're also walking around like you would if you're playing laser tag.
Oh, that'd be dope. I've seen the one where like you're basically on a 360-degree treadmill, and you can, run, jump, and whatever, but you don't actually move anywhere. And you got like the VR goggles on. You're holding like a gun essentially, but you don't actually have to go anywhere because you're on a. It's kind of like almost like a ball, and as you move and change directions, like it goes with you. It's kind of rad, but.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I'll have to, in the show notes, I'll have the proper website for whatever the Vortex is, what we're calling the Vortex. My buddy sent it to me, and I was like, this is what I'll be afraid of. What I'm like, I'll play Call of Duty when I'm 60, but I won't do this when I'm 60. Like, this is something that they need to get done within the next 10 years for me to do and not be afraid of.
Yeah,
It sounds like serial killer training is what it is.
No, well,
the marketing is like, have you ever wanted to shoot a bunch of motherfuckers but couldn't follow through? Come to fucking Nevada and we'll do it for you.
Like, try to kill a bunch of motherfuckers, but then you run out of breath and you find that you're tired and can't catch up. Well, now train yourself to kill motherfuckers en masse with our new training simulator.
Hey guys, we are going to cut it right there. Awesome interview with the After Six boys. Well worth the wait, and it feels like I recorded this so long ago. Oh man. It was shortly after the Philadelphia Podcast Fest that we recorded, well before the New York Comic-Con show that we did. And it took us like a couple months to book it too. So like the fact that it took like 2 months to book it, now we're about a month and a half releasing it, all well worth the wait, because just like Tattoo Bananas, this is another show where it's just a couple of best friends sitting around talking. And we said it many times in this episode. I appreciate those kinds of episodes that are just two friends. That's kind of why I started this business. Started in this business was because of Smodcast, Kev Smith, Scott Moser, two best friends talking. And I have to give a quick correction to the Vortex, because it's not called the Vortex at all. It's called the Void. I was close, but the Void, which I have to say, they have a smaller scale venue in New York City. We checked it out when we went to do our live show there in Madame Tussauds Wax Museum. They have a Ghostbusters virtual reality game, and I mean, it's maybe like a 15-minute experience, but so worth the price of admission. You get to strap on a headset, and you strap all this gear on, and you're walking around this haunted house, I guess, or I forget the setting, but you're walking around and you're shooting ghosts with your proton packs and your ray guns and stuff, and you have to fight the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It's just a really cool experience, and if this is like their first major release in the virtual reality realm, I can't wait until they have the technology perfected a little bit more, and you can do full scale kind of levels and have like a real VR experience where you're in there for maybe an hour and you're playing, and you're on the battlefield, or trying to chase down a zombie or something. So cool. So big apologies to the people of the Void, because I called it the Vortex. It is the Void. You check it out. You can now play it in Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, so go check it out. That's it for this week, guys. We're going to be back on Monday with a bonus episode with this artist from Leeds, England, in the UK, Alexandra. Talk world peace and stuff, and art. And then we'll be back next Wednesday for the end of this conversation with Travis and Adam from After Six Podcast. Make sure you go to iTunes and check out their podcast. Leave a review, 5-star review while you're there. Leave a 5-star review for us. And make sure you check us out on all the social medias and stuff at Real Awesome Pod, on Twitter at Awesome Podcast, on Instagram. Guys, I'm going for a walk as I do this. I'm sure you can tell because I'm out of breath as I walk and talk. At That Nerdy Kev on Twitter is where you can find me, and of course check out the show on awesomepodcast.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time right here on Everything is Awesome. We've been awesome.